everybody. Welcome back to another Whatcha Reading, where we get to share with you what we've been reading for the month. I'm Miss Ashley.
I'm Miss Melanie.
And I'm Miss Hana.
And all right, I can't wait to get started. So shall I begin?
Yes, you can go first.
Okay. This one I want to work up to. So I shared one of my new favorite authors, Stacey Lee. She's not necessarily a new author, but she's new to me. And I've shared her in a couple of videos before. I did The Downstairs Girl and The Luck of the Titanic. And those were excellent books. And this one, again, she hits it out of the park. It's called Outrun the Moon by Stacey Lee. And it's so good. Again, she puts the Asian characters in history that they were written out of. So this takes place in 1906 during the San Francisco earthquakes, the big earthquakes that took out like the whole place. And she does a beautiful job of just bringing people together during a critical moment in history. And it was really good. It's about this girl named Mercy Wong, right? And she is determined to get out of her parents' poverty in Chinatown. So she worms her way into, she uses a business transaction to get into this fancy school for girls. And it's called St. Clair School for Girls. And she wants to become a businesswoman. So she gets into that school, and like the next day, the earthquake hits. And she has to come to grips with what's going on with reality, what's going on. And she has to find her own inner strength, and they have to overcome racism and classism and all the things that don't really matter when the world shakes. So it was very good, and it's great for, I say, teen girls, young teen girls, older teen girls. Excellent book. So definitely a good read. I don't know if boys would like it because it's very girly, but it's great, and I love how it talks about the different inventions of the time and a little bit about the Industrial Revolution, so it's a good book. Definitely pick it up.
Good. Okay, I'm going to talk about this graphic novel called The Dire Days of Willowweep Manor, and it's so good. It is basically this giant satire on the classic trope of Gothic romance. So it's about this girl, and her teacher, her name is Haley, and her teacher's like, okay, you gotta stop writing book reports about Gothic romances. And she's like, well, what about regular romance? She's like, no. She's like, just do something different. She's like, but they're so good. So she's all upset, and she's like, fine, I have to find a new genre. And she's walking home, and she sees this guy drowning. And so she's like, oh my gosh. So she like jumps in and saves him, and then she ends up like in this like parallel universe where like it's literally just giant Gothic romance trope. So there's like moors and castles and fruity manor house, like men and all of this, and there's like a hermitage and all. It's so funny, and like she has to help them fight like the big bad, and it's so good because like if you ever read Wuthering Heights or Jane Eyre or like Castle of Otranto, which is like the first Gothic romance, which was written in like 1764, I think. So it's like it's a very old trope. This like makes fun of it. Like she has an umbrella and he has a butter knife because there's like never really any weapons in in Gothic romances. But it's so good. I loved it.
The art looks really cute.
It's really cute. And there's like ghosts and like friars and like it's so funny. Like I love books that make fun of themselves, and this one like takes all of these great books and they're like, yeah, they're great, but like they're also funny, and it's like super cute.
That sounds good.
It's really good, and I think boys and girls would like it because it has all of the classic things in it. If you read those books, which like I love Jane Eyre, like I love Gothic romance books, so this is awesome.
Nice. All right, the first one I'm going to talk about is Winter's Bone, which I was surprised was a YA book.
Yeah.
The main character is the 16-year-old girl, Ree Dolly is her name. And so there was a movie that came out with
Jennifer
Lawrence. So I have not seen the movie, and the book was good, but it's pretty bleak. It's there's a lot of poverty. There's meth dealers that are hunting her down. There's a lot of violence, and I was just like, wow, this poor child is like, you know, she is 16, and this does happen to 16-year-olds where all of a sudden you have to be an adult and take care of your younger siblings when her mom is sick. So the plot, let me back up a step here. So her mom is sick, her dad went to jail for dealing meth, and now he's skipped bail. So the police or somebody comes to the door and they're like, hey, your dad used this house as collateral for his bail, and we can't find him, so you're about to lose the house, heads up.
Wow.
So she's like, okay, I gotta find my dad. So she's thinking of all these people that he might be hiding with, very dangerous people, and she's on her own to try to find him. A lot of people think he's dead. She does too, actually. Like, she's like, I don't think that he would not come back. I think something happened to him. So she's trying to solve this mystery. Meanwhile, the brothers are there. She's trying to take care of them. It's so sad, like how she has to try to feed them and everything. It's like very bleak, but
Where does it take place?
good question. It's like in the Ozarks.
Oh, wow.
So there is a TV show, The Ozarks, and it reminded me a lot of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very dark.
It's kind of a bad reputation that area has. I feel a little bad, like it can't really be that bad everywhere, right? But anyway, yeah. So it was good if you're in the right mood for that, I think. Yeah.
So not light reading.
I think boys would like it. Also girls. Yeah, it's good for everyone.
All right. So this one I absolutely loved, Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim.
I mentioned this one last time. I read what it was about, so now we get to hear like your opinion on like all the things.
It was so good. So just to recap, it is a retelling of the Seven Swan stories. So like little parts of the original fairy tale are in here, but her imagination is amazing. So Shiori Anma is the only princess of the Kyoto Empire, and she is a spoiled rich girl, the usual one, and she is being forced to marry a lowly lord from like the southern kingdom, and she bails on her wedding day, and she ends up meeting a dragon named Seryu, and starts to realize that she's got magical powers. And I know, right? Nothing like the fairy tale at all. And she's a sorceress in her own right. So she begins this journey, and in this journey, she does have this stepmother, and her stepmother, who she finds out is a sorceress too, and she ticks off her stepmother. So what happens when the stepmother's ticked off? She punishes her, and she can't speak, just like in the fairy tale. But it's not that her voice was taken away, it's she cannot speak. If she speaks, she'll kill her brothers, who were turned into cranes, really beautiful cranes. And the story takes a really dark twist, and she travels to all these different lands as she's trying to find her brother and find a way to break Reikama's curse. And her stepmother's name is Reikama, which actually means one with no name, because no one knows her name. And there's a whole quest, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And there's all kinds of magic. There's twists and turns. You never know what to expect. It was really good. And I cannot wait to read the sequel, because it didn't end. That's the bad part right there.
Cliffhanger?
Unfortunately, it didn't end. So cliffhanger, yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, come on.
I'm halfway through it right now, and it's so good.
It is
and
so
I didn't
very
know there was a cliffhanger.
It's so very good. Sorry, spoiler.
It's okay.
But it's so good. I mean, it ends to the point where you're like, oh, that was good, but dang it, what happens next? So yes.
Okay, so next I'm going to talk about, this is a series. The first is called Daughter of the Pirate King, and the second one is a mild spoiler, but not really. It's Daughter of the Siren Queen. Oh. So the first one starts off, she is a pirate, and she's the daughter of the Pirate King, and there's 3 ancient pirate lords who now have descendants, but her father is like the ruler of all of them. So like he has like all the seas under his control, and everyone kind of pays homage to him. And there's these 3 maps that were passed down. Well, it's one map, but it's in 3 sections. It was passed down from the ancient pirate lords, and her father wants her to find all the pieces. So he has one piece, And the map leads to Isla de Canta, which is the island of the Sirens. So the island of songs, the island of the Sirens. So she purposefully gets kidnapped by the descendants of another pirate lord, Raiden, and his older brother Draxon. And they think that they kidnapped her and they're gonna go get ransom from her father, but like the whole time she's like, haha, like I'm here on purpose. She keeps breaking out of her cell and they're like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, don't hurt me. And she's like, I could totally whoop all of these boys. Like, and it's funny because like there are times when like she'll be fighting and she'll accidentally like knock out 5 guys and they're like, what? And she's like, oops, right? I'm not supposed to be able to do this. But we find out pretty quickly in the story that she has siren powers. And so when it's so interesting because it's so different from like other siren stories. Whenever she touches the sea, she becomes the siren, and she has 3 different powers. She can make anyone do anything with her song. She can control people, make them see illusions, and she can is a temptress, so she can become any man's perfect fantasy. So. Yeah.
That's a lot.
I know, but it's so interesting. Like she does all these things, and in the second one we learn more about the goal of Isla de Canta. I'm not good at other languages, but they're so good. She has like fiery red hair, and like there's like a wonderful romance that's so cute. I love it so much. It's so good.
Is it one of the brothers?
Yes. But it's not a love triangle, which I thought it would be when they're like, oh, these 2 brothers, one is like awful and one is like a precious little baby, and we love him. I love him so much. So I am almost done with the second one. I was up until like 3 a.m. last night, and I was like, I need to sleep.
Cool.
So I love them. They're so good. They're so good. I recommend them to everyone.
And who's the author?
Trisha Levenseller.
Okay. Cool.
She also wrote a couple other series, but it's so good.
She wrote like a Peter Pan series, didn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
or
wrote-
Wendy.
Yes.
About Wendy.
She wrote like 3 or 4 series, but it's so good. I love it.
Nice.
Neil Gaiman.
Yes, Neil Gaiman, Anasi Boys. This is adult fantasy if you're looking for it on our shelves, but I don't think anything that crazy happens where teens couldn't read it. So the story is the main character is Fat Charlie. He's not actually fat, but somehow he can't get rid of that name. And his father is Mr. Nancy. And Fat Charlie's kind of like a bumbling, like he can't do anything right. I don't know. Like you don't really love him or anything in the beginning. And then he finds out he's engaged to this lady, and she's like, contact your family because I want them to come to our wedding. And he's like, I do not want my dad there. And she's like, contact him. And he's like, okay, I'll contact him. So anyway, he finds out that his dad has passed, and so he travels to Florida. It takes place in England, where his dad died in a very embarrassing way. And he's just like, I hate this man. He keeps coming back to haunt me. And so he finds out when he's in Florida that he has a brother named Spider. So then he's like, I should contact him. And his neighbor is like, oh, just tell a spider that you want to get in touch with your brother. And he's like, what?
What?
Okay, lady. And then he goes back. So then he's like, I can't remember if he's drunk or something, but he catches a spider in his bathtub, and he's like, let my brother know that I'd like to meet him, just thinking, haha, that was weird. And then his brother shows up and like takes over his life. His brother's super charming, and like everybody likes him. He's got this power of persuasion, so even though he doesn't look anything like Charlie, people think it's him. So he like goes to Charlie's work, gets him in trouble there. His fiance, Charlie's fiance, is like, I love you. And like, she thinks it's him at first, and he just causes all kinds of trouble.
Wow.
And then so Fat Charlie has to like make this bargain with some of the other this is like West African folklore. And so some of the other gods to try to get his life right. So it ended up being really entertaining and good. It's pretty funny. And I just like, I don't know, I liked the characters. So you do end up liking Charlie, even though he wasn't impressive in the beginning. So,
I'm not gonna lie, when you said the guy's name was Spider, I immediately thought of like this heavily tattooed motorcycle.
yeah. Well, I don't know if he described them really, but Anansi is the trickster god, so it's kind of like Loki, where it's more playful than malicious, and he steals the other god's stories and makes them his own story, like, oh, that was about me, and then it becomes known, like, so Anansi is more well-known than some of the other ones, so like one of the villains in this story is the tiger god, and he's mad at Anansi and all his descendants because he took all the stories, and so it kind of dips into a lot of the folklore too.
Cool.
It's really neat.
Very cool.
It was good. And it's in the same world as American Gods. If you watched that show or read that book,
Okay.
Mr. Nancy's in that book. So
Cool.
I need to read both of them.
really good.
Okay, so I'm ready for this one. The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. This is so good, and I cannot believe that this is this author's first book. This is her debut novel, and it's just so good. It's magical. I'm not even sure if it's West African folklore or whatever it is, but it's so good. So this 16-year-old girl named Deka finds out that she is, well, let me back up. So they live in a very patriarchal society where there is this god who, all the women are kept down, like way down. They can't go out in public without a man or a boy to chaperone them. They have to cover their faces with masks, and they have some pretty weird masks. They have like funky happy masks and like super scary masks to scare away the devils and demons and stuff. And then at 16, the women have to go through a purification ceremony, or she finds out pretty quickly. It's not a purification ceremony. It's a ceremony to find the impurities, to find the, well, they call them demons, but there are the Gilded Ones. So when it's her turn, she finds out that her blood is actually golden, and she's descended from these demons. But as we go through the story, we find out, as always, everything is misunderstood and misinterpreted, because who wrote the history in this thing? Men.
This has reminded me of that one book that we all read a few months ago.
Yes.
What was that?
I forgot. I was thinking it too, though.
Yeah, we all read it. I remember you being excited. It was supposed to be turned into a movie, but it's like the girls. It was almost like reminded me of like Puritanism.
Really dark. The Bloody Tree. What was that called?
Oh my gosh.
I'll have to look it up while you talk.
Okay, all right. Anyway, so it gets so dark so quickly, like out of nowhere. But there are these creatures called death shrieks, and they are ravaging the kingdom. So her village is attacked the moment she finds out that she is impure. And her father is about to be killed by one of these death shrieks. So she screams at him, "No!" And her voice is layered, and she feels this magic well up inside her, and she controls the thing. And the thing gets scared to death of her and runs away. And then her whole village just turns on her and stabs her. And they try to kill her. So that was her first death. And then we find out she can't die.
It's the something year. The grace year.
I don't have to leave.
Okay.
The grace year. I was just about to go get my phone so I can look it up.
It is like the grace year because it's very what's the word? You can't trust anything. You can't trust the folklore in here, or not the folklore, but what she accepted as truth. She finds out in one day is just not. And the elders in her village torture her horribly for her blood. Her blood is worth a lot of money, and also they are trying to find her final death, because if the Gilded One is found, they're supposed to kill them. But some of them can't die. I mean, they can, but you got to find the final death. There's one way to kill her. So they dismember her, they drown her, they hang her, they bleed her, they do all these horrible things to her. And until finally, this random woman, who she eventually calls White Hands, because she has these white gloves, and she never tells her name, so she calls her White Hands, comes into her village and takes her away, and says that the emperor wants her. And it turns out the emperor is gathering all of these cursed women, the Gilded Ones, to become his personal army against the death shrieks. Oh, and everything that you want in a good fantasy is in here, even the cute pet that turns into a ferocious giant animal.
Yay!
In here. I love it. So very good.
Adorable.
So yes, please read this, and Namina Forna, please write more, because this is awesome. Also, this is a one-shot, it does end. That's what I really love about this, is I don't get stuck in a series, so yay!
Okay, so this is a book that I love the cover so much that I was like, I need to read this. It's so pretty. And it's so like
The dream.
not a normal cover that I would pick up. So this is in the adult fiction section, but there's nothing really adult in it. It is about this pandemic. It's like super timely too. Like I read it and I was like, oh, this is like the first of the COVID novels that are gonna start coming out.
But this is not new.
It's not.
Yeah, that's been around.
It's crazy. This came out in 2018. Okay, so it starts off in this town, Santa Laura. Santa Laura? Yeah, it all centers around this college. And one day, there's this party and these girls fall asleep and they never wake up. So it's like the sleeping sickness. They're not dead, but they're sleeping. And they can't wake them up no matter what they do. And so they find, like, more and more people start to fall asleep, and then they find out that some of them are dreaming. So the CDC steps in, and like they all tell them everyone has to wear masks and be quarantined, and it's so crazy because it's so much like COVID-19 that I was like, oh, someone totally like ripped off the world, but it actually came out beforehand. And there was an interview with the author where she was like, wow, I spent 4 years imagining a pandemic world and then the last 2 years living it. So, but it's so interesting the way that this author writes. It's like the whole thing is like, if you ever read The Book Thief, where the narrator is like seeing everything and telling a story and everything is just happening at the same time below. It goes in and out of like 12 different people's narratives, and I kind of pictured it as like this cloud that just like dips in and shows you what's happening here and then shows you what's happening here. And it's so interesting the way that the author ties it all together and writes it all. It's Karen Thompson Walker, but these people are sleeping and then someone wakes up, and he's like, he has this dream and he's like, this is going to happen, we have to do this, and everyone's like, no, he's delusional, he hasn't been eating properly, don't listen to him. And then what he saw happens, but in a different way. So it's very interesting. I thought it was a great book. It might be, I don't know, it's one of my favorite books I've read. Like the writing is so beautiful, and it's really cool. So The Dreamers.
Nice, it sounds good.
Yeah, it's good.
How did you feel about the ending? Was it like a good resolution, or was it like...
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It ends.
Good. Okay. So I have 2 more I want to talk about, but I don't have them with me. Boo. I mean, it's good because then they're checked out. But the first one is Tokyo Ever After.
I have checked out, which I totally could have brought in.
I could have. I didn't even check to see who had it. This one took it. So it's really cute cover. Like, it's bright blue, and then it shows like the Japanese princess on the front. But so it's totally a ripoff of the Princess Diaries. So if you are familiar with that story, same exact story, which I kind of had an issue with while I was reading. I was like, I could use a touch more imagination in there. I was thinking when you were talking about how she turns the fable on its head and makes it her own, like this, not so much, but still extremely cute story. The only difference is so it's a girl, she's in California, and her mom and dad met at Harvard, and the dad is the son of the Japanese emperor or whatever, so she's like next in line. She finds out who her dad is, gets in contact with him, goes over to Japan, and has to learn all the customs and everything, and it's very difficult for her to go from being like a California girl to being a very formal Japanese princess. Pretty much exactly like it, but very cute. There is a love interest who's the bodyguard.
Ooh,
So
So it's like Joe and the Queen and Princess Diaries.
yes. So anyway, I just wanted to mention it because it's really cute if you're looking for a quick, short romance. Yeah,
Cute.
it's good. And I think it's a little bit modernized. That's one good thing about, it just came out. So like her friends in high school are texting each other, and they're super funny, and it's, so it's a little bit more
I
modern
like
than
that.
the
I always
Princess
find it
Diaries.
so unrealistic when there's like a book set in.
And they don't talk about
They never text each
texting,
other.
yeah.
They never like talk to each other outside of school. Like it's just like everything happens in school. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
she's got a good support
not
group.
right.
They're all different Asian Americans at her high school from different countries and stuff, but they
Right.
get lumped together, so.
very cute.
Anyway, is it my turn or your turn?
I have one more I want to talk about.
Okay.
So it's called Nature of Witches, The Nature of Witches, and it's so cool. I'm about halfway through with it, and I loved the beginning, and I'm starting to not like it anymore. So I want to talk about it a little bit because it's like super interesting. It's about this school where all these people are witches, and the witches are associated with the seasons. So there's winter, spring, autumn, and summer. Wow, sorry. Their powers come and go with the different seasons. And there's this one girl, she's an Everwitch. So she has the power of all the seasons, but with each season, her personality changes. So,
Interesting.
like, yeah, like the winter witches are like super like cold and like isolating, where the summer witches are like always super happy and passionate. And like it starts off in summer, and she like has this romance, and she tells the guy like, and when I wake up on the solstice, I'm not gonna like you anymore. And he's like, yeah, you will. So he's in her room, and it's midnight, and she's like, okay, bye. And he's like, wait, what? And she's like, I told you, like, I have no more feelings for you. It's now autumn. Like, I'm now cold. Goodbye. And he's like, oh, well, I just lost $40 on that bet.
Oh.
He, like, leaves. But it's kind of climate changey, like random things are happening in the wrong seasons, and the witches aren't strong to the things. So like there's like a heat storm in winter, and the since the summer witches are the farthest away, their powers are the weakest. So like it's really interesting how it's happening, but I'm starting to like not like where it's going.
Why?
I don't know. It's just like it started off so strong, and now it's like getting like super like climate control-y, and like they have I don't remember what
So
they
it's,
call-
I get it. It's like you lose interest.
yeah, I'm losing interest
It's not
in it.
going
It's
where you
like
wanted it to go.
it's like 500 pages, and I'm like 250 pages into it, and I'm like, okay.
And it's so hard when it's good in the
Let's go.
beginning, because you're like,
Yeah.
is this going to get good again, or am I just, it's all downhill?
So I will
skip a
see.
few pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, let's skip like 10 chapters. Okay, yay. But
Huh.
yeah, it's really interesting.
I want to
the
know
way
where
works.
where it
Yes.
ends.
I will let you know.
Okay.
nature of
You're going to finish it?
I'm gonna finish it.
Okay.
I think.
So the last one I want to talk about is called Firekeeper's Daughter. It's by Angeline Boulay. It's really good. It's really, really good. I really liked it. I thought about it for a long time after I was done. So,
cool.
yeah, it's the main character is Donis, is her name, and she is part Ojibwe in the tribe. So they're in Michigan, like in the Upper Peninsula, and it was just really, I don't really know anything about that area. Like, it was really cool reading like her little slice of life and her tribe. So she's, her dad was a pretty well-known hockey player in the tribe, and then her mother was like an underage white girl that he slept with and got pregnant. So she's not in the tribe. She's not actually accepted. So there's like a lot of tribal politics that were really interesting to me. And then that's all just on the side. The main thing is that her mother gets sick, so she defers her freshman year going to the University of Michigan so that she can stay home and take care of her mom. And her dad was unfaithful, and so she has a half-brother that she's really close with named Levi. And they both become embroiled in this, like, there's like these drug-related deaths in the tribe, in their neighborhood. And she's trying to solve them and figure out why girls are dying. And there were some aspects that were not real believable to me, like an undercover FBI guy ends up being the love interest, but he's like undercover as a, like a senior in high school playing hockey with the tribe. And I'm like, wait, he's a tribal member, he can play hockey? I know, right? So if you can just be like, accepting of all these things that are happening in the story. Like, I thought the story itself was really well written, and like I loved all the characters and everything, so it was good.
Yeah, how do they find a tribe member
Yeah.
who looks young enough?
It's very
who's also
specific.
in the FBI. Like, I feel like they'd be like, wait, didn't you
Yeah.
go to the FBI or something?
Uh-huh.
Like, how many people are in this tribe?
Right.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So other than that little
Suspend
thing,
reality.
yes, it's worth it to do it,
They
I
can
think.
float in
It
the
was a
middle.
good story. Yeah. To me, it's not as bad as floating in the middle. Like, maybe there's a chance the sky could exist.
The floating in the middle was great, though.
Yeah.
It's like, I would love to do that. I would go to NASA just so I could float.
Yeah.
Float in the middle.
That's
so cute.
funny.
I love it.
Yeah. So the Firekeeper's daughter. I really loved the characters, I think, was the main
like that
thing. Like,
title.
the main character, she's like a dorky, funny, like super loyal, and I just wanted to be her friend.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I liked it.
All right.
That's it for me.
All right. Well, we had like all over the board, really. I think the only one we didn't hit was horror, really.
I'm
Right?
slacking. I'm sorry.
It's not the right time of year for that, right?
It's not. No,
Yeah.
next month.
Yeah. It's coming.
It's coming. I'll read the spookiest.
Yes. Oh, yes, Halloween. We should all read. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
read
we
it.
should all read scary stuff.
No, I'll have nightmares. I like happy, kidsy, lovey, or sad, really sad, cleansing ones. Okay, well, we enjoyed sharing all of the books that we read this month, and we would love to hear from you to see what you are reading too, so let us know.
Yes, and if any of these sound good to you, place a hold and we'll send them over to your library.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. See you next
Bye.
month.